we've kind of gotten through the people. We've gotten through the process. Now I'm focusing in on the technology. And on the technology side, I think there's a technology aspect to things. And then there's a data aspect to technology, right? So it's almost like, there's software, and then there's kind of getting the data and working with data. So I want to focus on each one of them separately here. Just moving on to this next slide. Oops, there we go. So hopefully you'll see that. So I'm up to slide 65 for people that may be following along. So for the most part, looking at the technology tools that are out there, what I try to do is think about some low-cost solutions to start. Maybe training the team of rangers in a product like Excel. Getting them started, kind of working, making some simple steps forward. As I always said, if you could just stratify your data, like every data file you get, if you just stratified it, that would solve so many problems in what you could find from an audit point of view. You will need some data tools that are usually beyond Excel, though, for data normalization. I find that there were products in the old days called EasyTrieve that was basically meant to kind of download data from your mainframe and use it. And in a lot of ways, ACL and IDEA became those products. They became like a universal translator for systems so that they could pull data and normalize it. But I think you might want to consider having some of those tools available to you to be able to kind of put your data together. And with that, though, starting with a kind of a low-cost tool is a great way to go initially. You might want to consider a results-focused approach. We'll talk about one in a second here in a couple of slides. But I find that many times companies want to see savings first, and in many ways, what I found was I would find millions of dollars through a few reports, and then the company would say, how can I run those reports myself? Or the business process owner of that area would say, I'm in procurement and I want to understand how I could be doing that versus you doing it as the auditor. And I think, therefore, kind of getting to that results focus can be a great idea. And I think moving to advanced analytics over time is another idea as well. And, what is advanced analytics? We'll talk about that in a couple of slides here. But I think it's getting to products that can do more predicting, have more of a kind of a root cause predictive type aspect to them. As well. So, but when we look at the types of tools that are being used right now, you'll see that for the most part, it's Excel 74% of the time. There's Access 25%, Caseware IDEA 19%, ACL 35%, and then a kind of a sampling across the board, elsewhere. I think so. Kind of moving on to the next slide here. One of the considerations that I got into with a lot of companies that had no budget for analytics, because it's a very common thing, as you can see from the studies, is we would work out doing cost recovery. We would go in and I showed on a previous slide how I have a whole set of a book on this topic, but you can learn more at the link here. Basically, cost recovery firms will come in and find money for you, and I find because they have an interest in finding as much money as possible, for themselves as well as for you, they have a lot more interest in getting beyond a sample. So, most auditors, they only have time for a sample. They can't really get past that. Whereas the recovery firm will literally sit down and work on it for months to try to find as much money as they can for the organization. And what you can do over time is learn from that technology. I mean, you could ask questions of them and say, okay, how'd you find that? And what reports did you run? And how'd you do that? And that would then kind of build into, how could you build your own technology? I have a report service as well. We're essentially, as we kind of go to this next slide here, I call it business process diagnostic reporting. The links are, in the slides here. And actually, there's even the brochure for the service in the handouts for today that you can download. But what I found over really the last 10 or 15 years of working with companies is that it was easier to show up and run a bunch of reports for people and have them pick or choose almost like a menu of what they liked, and then make that the software that they ended up moving forward with going forward, versus having people, train, buy software, and then hopefully find some savings at the end of that rainbow. So, the analytic service here, we apply to core business cycles. We focus on results. We don't focus on just, how many units of software and how many training hours, but really on making savings for you and efficiencies. And based on those efficiencies, we're then proving the technology value so that you then can make a business case to buy that software. And on the right there, you get an idea of the number of reports that I'm running in each of the business processes, which for the most part, we're able to do in a few hours of getting us data. So, as long as we can get like a general ledger file and a trial balance from you, a couple of very simple files to get, and we can help in getting those files, you can get a lot done. You can get 60 reports back and be able to start thinking about, where to go next. And I find that this is, in many ways, where companies are going is the software as a service and getting to a subscription type model. This is kind of getting in line with that, where a lot of companies are realizing it's tough kind of getting value out of the technology. It's better just to start out getting results and then move back into how do we then prove the value of that technology. Now, once you've proved the value of technology, you can go to the advanced analytic tools, which per the Gartner 2015 study, the Magic Quadrant, these were the 5 types of products. And what Gartner defined advanced analytics as is it's more sophisticated quantitative methods. They're using more predictive data mining, simulation, optimization to help identify insights that the traditional approaches, like running a vendor to employee test, that would be like a traditional type test, that it got beyond that and it allowed you to discover more in your data.